Hello and welcome to News Round, where we bring you a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up, Federal High Court in Abuja strikes out case against 119 protesters charged over the End Bad Governance protests. And Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja dies at 56. Senate Committee on Finance probes crude oil sales to domestic refineries in Naira. Plus, Donald Trump wins 2024 presidential election, marking his return to the White House. Our news round begins from the court, where Justice Obiora Egwatu of the Federal High Court, Abuja, struck out the suit against 119 protesters charged of the nationwide End Bad Governance protests. Justice Egwatu struck out the case following an application by the counsel to the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Mohammed Abubakar.
The case instituted by the Nigerian police against the End Bad Governance protesters, majorly minors, who were arraigned on November 1st on alleged treason, resumes at the Federal High Court, Abuja. This time, however, the Attorney General of the Federation, through his counsel, is here to take over the case and discontinue it. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation is attending the proceeding alongside other lawyers. At the resumed hearing, a representative of the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Mohammed Abubakar, says he has applied to take over and discontinue the case. This development comes just hours after President Bola Tinubu directed the AGF and law enforcement agencies to release all the minors detained over the protests. Counsel to the first to 50th defendant, Mr. Femi Falana, did not oppose the application. Mr. Falana says that it was in accordance with the letter and spirit of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, as well as several provisions of the Child Rights Act, stating that the AGF has the power to take over the case at any stage and exercise its discretion to discontinue the suit. The trial judge, Justice Obiora Egwatu, subsequently struck out the case. Counsel to the defendants applaud the release by the federal government, but calls for the release of other protesters in related cases.
Yesterday, 19 people were also charged in Borno State, including minors. Again, we are calling on the government to discontinue all cases pending in different states with respect to the August protest.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation has a mandate from President Tinubu to cater for the welfare of the minors.
Before we return them, we want to do also due process of ensuring that they are medically fit. So we take them for safekeeping in the facility and make sure they're medically checked. And where we need to make additional treatment, we take care of them so that psychological they're also tested, and we ensure that they're safely and well treated and taken care of and giving a human face to what happened.
The release of the minors now puts to rest the case against them as they reunite with their families after being in detention for about 2 months. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
And it was a sad Tuesday in Nigeria as the presidency announced the death of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja. President Bola Tinubu, in a press statement, announced the news concerning Lieutenant General Lagbaja. The former Chief of Army Staff died at the age of 56 on Tuesday night in Lagos after a period of illness. President Tinubu expresses his heartfelt condolences to the family and the Nigerian Armed Forces during this difficult time. However, he is the first to die as a result of a prolonged illness. Before him, the nation's second Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Akan, died in a helicopter crash in May 1968, while the 25th Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru, died when an aircraft conveying him to Kaduna encountered bad weather and crashed.
Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja was appointed the 27th Chief of Army Staff on June 19, 2023 by President Bola Tinubu. Born on February 28, 1968, Lieutenant General Lagbaja enrolled in the Nigerian Defense Academy in 1987. On September 19, 1992, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Nigerian Infantry Corps as a member of the 39th Regular Course of the Academy. Upon assumption of office as the Chief of Army Staff, he made equipping the Army and welfare of officers his priority as he aims to combat the nation's emerging security threats.
I'm sure many of you are on the social media, you are reading from the print and hearing from the electronic media. People are making insinuations and trying to drag the armed forces into a conflict that is not our responsibility.
Before his appointment as the Army Chief, he participated in several military operations within and outside the country, and he believed that the military cannot secure Nigeria's territory without the cooperation of the people.
With the support of the National Assembly, I want to assure you that the officers and men of the Nigerian Army are determined and will continue to ensure that we extend the frontier of peace and stability across our country by addressing security challenges in all geographical regions of the country.
Under his leadership, the Nigerian Army launched operations in Niger, Kaduna, Plateau, Benue States, the Southeast region, as well as strengthening of existing operations across the country.
I believe that with the alignment of purpose between the government, the people, and our security agencies, we shall soon see light at the end of the tunnel of our security challenges.
An alumnus of the prestigious U.S. Army War College, he maintained that the military will not interrupt Nigeria's democracy.
Permit me to seize this opportunity to reiterate that the armed forces of Nigeria, particularly the Nigerian Army, has come to terms with the country's choice of democracy as the preferred system of governance. We are therefore agents of democracy and have no desire to truncate it. The Nigerian Army will continue to defend our constitution and not suspend it for whatever reason.
3 months before his death, Lieutenant General Lagbaja had stayed away from public functions and several activities.
Meanwhile, the Federal Executive Council meeting, which was scheduled to hold in the State House, was postponed in honor of Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, the Chief of Army Staff, who passed away on Tuesday night. Now, some members of the council had already taken their seat when Vice President Kashim Shettima announced the postponement.
Cabinet members arriving for the week's Federal Executive Council meeting. The first meeting for the ministers who were sworn in on Monday and other ministers with new portfolios. However, a message arrives from the president and is delivered by the vice president.
They are suspended the council meeting in honor of the death of Prime Minister. We also recently happened. Let's observe 1 minute silence for
As they make their way out of the chamber, some of them pay tribute to the late Chief of Army Staff.
He was a gallant officer, very, very hardworking. He was indeed a warrior. He has served in so many theaters and have done commendably well. It's a very sad loss for the country. We pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to receive him and to bless him.
The nation is in mourning. The president and the entire government is in mourning. He was indeed a very resourceful officer who has put it in best to fight insurgency in this country and for the many achievements he has succeeded while serving this great nation.
The acting Chief of Army Staff was also at the villa and received some condolences. He also paid tribute to the late officer.
The entire Nigerian army is actually in a very sorrowful mood, having lost our leader, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja. This was someone that gave his all to Nigeria. He was a selfless leader, very passionate about Nigeria, and he led the Nigerian army very well. He was courageous. He was known to be thorough and a professional to the core.
President Bola Tinubu has ordered that flags be flown at half-mast nationwide for the next 7 days in honor of the departed general. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
And now to environmental issues. About 103 communities are experiencing various levels of flooding in the Harder West local government area of Rivers State as a result of heavy rains and increased discharge of water from dams upstream, leading to increase in water flowing downstream from the rivers Niger and Benue.
Driving through the streets of Akinima, council headquarters of Ahoda West in Rivers State, one can clearly see the level of devastation caused by the floods emanating from the overflowing Orashi River in the area, even as children frolic in the water. Natives are harvesting their crops prematurely, lest they go bad as a result of the rising waters. Moving around, we resort to canoes as the roads are virtually impassable by vehicles.
This used to be a very thriving and bustling community, but now it's a ghost town as everybody has fled, barring a few stragglers around.
At Jonkroma community, the chief press secretary of the council paints a bleak picture of the situation on ground, even as he calls for federal government intervention.
103 communities of our government area is flooded. The people you see around here are just trying to survive. We've relocated them to IDP camps. We have about 8 IDP camps all over the LGA, but it's not yet even enough because day after day, the population of which are leaving their homes is increasing. The water has not stopped, it's not receding, it's still flowing. And the worst of it is when the flood finally recedes, people are going to be in problem of food scarcity because crops that we should harvest next year, we've harvested them premature in a haste. And there's no system to which we can use to preserve our crops, our foodstuffs. And so we're calling on the federal government to do the best they can with NEMA to come to our aid.
From there, we move to Umbiama, where the situation is pretty much the same. Some affected members of the community cry out for help from the government.
People are stealing our things because nowhere to sleep. We are sleeping on the roads. So no way. So we are begging that government should come and help us.
I don't know, salary. I pay on my this for what they work. Now they don't carry their flood now come spoil what's in our plant. So say now that what's in our plant I take feed myself. Pay my son's school fees.
There's an exchange of words when a council official tries to placate a displaced woman.
This is not the first time now. This is not the first problem.
You know what this time something will come out?
Nothing they come out.
And for me at the time say nothing. You don't see me before?
I've not seen you before.
The special advisor to the council chairman, who also doubles as the head of the flood intervention team for the council, reassures the women. He also says they are doing the best they can, but insists they are not happy with NEMA and the federal government.
Federal government has not done well. These agencies, NEMA, they have not done well. Even the state government, we expect them to bring more material. The ones they brought is not enough. We need more.
To get the perspective of the National Emergency Management Agency, we talked to the zonal coordinator, who says the buck stops at the State Emergency Management Agency and that NEMA is there to complement their efforts when it goes beyond them.
This is Rivers State, and the state government has a full responsibility. First responders to such incidences. Okay, so most of them are ignorant of the sequence of our response. Normally, if the state is overwhelmed, then NEMA comes in to assist. So every state has a state emergency management agency or a flood committee that is in charge of some of these things. So we are only collaborating, we are only, making things work better so that for the sake of the distress, we won't have loss of life.
Attempts to reach the State Emergency Management Agency were unsuccessful as they promised to get back to us, but never did.
From Ahoda West in Rivers State, Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
And still ahead on News Round, the Senate Committee on Finance probes crude oil sales to domestic refineries in Naira. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Well, the Senate Committee on Finance has begun a fact-finding mission with members of President Bola Tinubu's economic team, including Ministers of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy and Group CEO of the NNPCL, Mr. Mele Kyari, on the sale of crude oil to domestic refineries in Naira, among other economic concerns. However, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edu, commends Nigerians for their patience, explaining that the President's two critical reforms, including a directive on Naira-based transactions for crude oil, have started yielding results.
Amidst the current economic hardship, the Senate Committee on Finance launched a fact-finding mission as they summoned President Bola Tinubu's economic team to probe critical issues of sales of crude oil to domestic refineries in Naira, among others.
We gather to deliberate on the pressing matters related to the sales of crude oil to domestic refineries in Nigeria, in Naira, and its implication on the approved medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for 2024-2026, and what we should expect for 2025-2027. Additionally, we will examine shortfalls in NNPCL revenue remittances and any outstanding unremitted revenue linked to under-recoveries.
Painting an optimistic picture, the Minister of Finance begins by explaining that the President's key initiatives are yielding viable results.
An important initiative of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while leading and chairing the Federal Executive Council, they approved that crude be traded and refined, and the refined products be also sold for domestic consumption using the local currency. And that has already leading to huge dividends across the economy, and particularly in terms of government revenue. And so I think we need to commend and congratulate all Nigerians on being able to stay the course of this particular reform program, which portends so well for the Nigerian economy and Nigerian people, and the benefits are already coming through.
The Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Accountant General of the Federation were expected to join the meeting but did not make it. The meeting continued behind closed doors for over 4 hours as the President of the Senate joined and no conclusive remarks. As that was going on, another critical issue of illegal and artisanal mining and other crimes are debated in a public hearing by the Senate Committee on Solid Minerals to push for the passage of a bill to create the National Mines Rangers Service.
The sector, to me, is confronted with the contradictions of abundance. Why should we have so much and we are in pains? And that is why this bill, the debate that attended this bill is very important.
However, there are some oppositions to the bill.
Do you not think it would have been better to amend the act establishing the civil defense to include or accommodate illegal mining than to move further to start thinking of creating a new agency, a new body?
The bill is going to contradict our own bill and usurp the function of the core, and then it's also tantamount to duplication.
Sponsor of the bill rises in defense.
The Nigerian prisons, the Nigerian immigrations, and even the army are overwhelmed. And so if these mining rangers come on board, it will not be too much.
The committee has promised to put into consideration all views and come up with a solution. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And theatre lovers are about to witness a convergence of creative talents as the Lagos International Theatre Festival is about to kick off. And to usher in the event, the founder, Bolanle Austin Peters, and some other board members held a press conference at the Lagos State House in Marina to speak on the inaugural edition of the festival.
The spirit of a nation is laid bare where culture is unmasked.
Global theatre is about to find a new home in Lagos State, southwest Nigeria. And these are the brains behind it. Bolanle Austin Peters, the frontrunner in the resurgence of live-action production in Nigeria, has teamed up with the Lagos State government and other notable names in hospitality and media space for what will be the Lagos International Theatre Festival.
Each play, a tapestry woven with threads of tradition and modernity.
The host governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, says the festival is part of a deliberate plan to provide support for the creative industry in Lagos because of its enormous potential.
We drew up an economic agenda that saw clearly that entertainment, tourism, creative arts, the creative industry is a strong, important, cardinal economic objective of Lagos. Right. He was standing on the same pillar as we will resolve public transportation, on the same pillar as we will resolve health and education, on the same pillar that we want to also resolve other life challenges, including security.
It challenges, it inspires, it transforms.
Having showcased her award-winning productions by Nigerian actors across the globe, including in London, South Africa, Egypt, and many more, the founder of the festival believes it's time theatre claims its rightful space within the Nigerian creative industry.
What we realized was that we needed a community. We needed somebody to hold us together. That is what has happened in fashion, in film, in music, in food. We were the ones left. And we said, no, we're probably the only ones that create the most entertainment for people at Christmas and Easter. Yet we were just letting ourselves be scattered all over.
This inaugural edition of the festival will start on November the 14th till the 17th. The chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, OON, who also chairs the festival board, explains that theatre and the creative industry at large can help launder the image of the country positively.
We're at the point where we need something that will show up Nigeria as a very successful country. That's the pivot, and that's the trigger that will set things alight in a positive way for Nigeria.
With the ongoing rise of other arms of the Nigerian creative industry, including Afrobeat and Nollywood, this strategic catalyst for the theatres is expected to further open more opportunities in the Nigerian creative economy.
And former U.S. President Donald Trump has won the American presidential election and will become the 47th president of the United States. He garnered 295 electoral votes and more than 71.5 million popular votes over Vice President Kamala Harris, which are 223 electoral votes and more than 66.4 million popular votes. Take a listen.
Donald Trump has been declared winner of the U.S. presidential election, affirming his claim to victory at the early hours of Wednesday morning, also declaring an unprecedented and powerful mandate as he addressed supporters in Florida, despite many states still counting votes then.
This was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal.
Trump's victory underscores how deep voters' frustrations were surrounding inflation and immigration. Republicans' two top issues this election cycle. Trump promised to fix America's borders and fix everything about the country.
We're going to have to seal up those borders, and we're going to have to let people come into our country. We want people to come back in, but we have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally.
He's the oldest U.S. presidential nominee and will become the nation's second oldest president. He faced two assassination attempts, one at a Pennsylvania campaign rally in July and another in September near one of his Florida golf courses. The win offers both political and legal protection for Trump. He's cast his indictment in 4 criminal cases as a political attack, vowing retribution against perceived enemies and embracing increasingly dystopian rhetoric. He became the first US president to be convicted of a crime in May in New York City and was the first president to be impeached twice. He denies any wrongdoing.
There was no crime.
His vow to alter the US relations with NATO and to resolve the Ukraine war with possible peace talks that might require Kyiv to cede
Have to seal
territory.
up those borders, and
He
we're gonna
said
have to let
Hamas
people come
must be
into our
crushed
country.
and vowed to be tougher on Iran, but
We
he's
want
given
people to come
few
back in,
details on policy proposals.
We have to
Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
legally.
And those were the top stories for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.